Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Of course, as always, I am your host, Charles Hamaker, here with you. One, I'm sorry about the audio. Two, I'm sorry that we're not in the studio here with you this week due to some stuff that I really wasn't in control of. Scheduling-wise, we weren't able to be in studio this week, which is unfortunate. We've been so good on being in the studio and been able to bring you that really high quality video. It's just not how it's going to go this week, and that's fine. We'll move on. We'll survive. We'll move forward. Speaking of our teams and moving forward, not the best luck in terms of wins and losses. I mean, the Seahawks continue to be in their respective offseason. The Mariners have found some traction, which is nice. The Storm are in their offseason as well. They have a lot of good and positive news as we approach their training camp. The soccer teams continue to struggle. The Kraken closed out their season here this past week and had some end of the season sort of meetings and stuff that we can recap when we get to that segment. And the Seawolves continue to roll on. They are number one in MLR in terms of standings points. And obviously with that, number one in the Western Conference as well. So we'll go into our Seahawks here like we start every show. Start with our Seahawks. Team brought back former punter John Ryan on a one-day contract to retire with the Seahawks. John Ryan spent 10 of his 12 NFL seasons in the city of Seattle, setting numerous team records and winning a Super Bowl title along with 2 NFC championships before he went on to finish his football career in the Canadian Football League. That decade with the Seahawks did leave a lasting impression on a quote-unquote redheaded kid from Canada. Also gained the nickname the Jinja Ninja when he was here in Seattle. He officially ended his football career as a member of the Seahawks, signing a one-day contract back on the 15th to allow him to retire as a member of the organization. His pro career began back with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers following a college career in which he played both punter and receiver at the University of Regina. He then made the leap to the NFL in 2006, signing with the Green Bay Packers at the time. He would join the Seahawks 2 years later in 2008, kicking off a decade-long run in which a punter established himself not only as a fan favorite, but also as something of a franchise icon. Over the course of his 10-year career in Seattle, he punted 770 times for 34,492 yards, with 276 of those 770 punts down inside the 20-yard line, all of those numbers which are franchise records. So really cool to have John be able to retire as a member of the Seahawks, guy that, was such a constant for so long with the franchise, had some incredible moments. Obviously, the NFC Championship game against the Packers, where he threw that touchdown to Gary Gilliam, is something that folks will remember, whether it's the touchdown in the play itself or the face that John Ryan was making during that. His fake punt against the Rams on, I believe it was Thursday Night Football, in those nice action green uniforms, where he eventually got crushed when he bobbled the ball and fell down later into that play. So it's really cool. He's also involved with baseball a little bit, but that's not what we're talking about. So we'll move over here and continue it in. After the John Ryan news, there's not a ton going on necessarily for the Seahawks, outside of some stuff that relates to free agency and approaching the draft and trading camp. So we'll go to that. On the 17th, the team hosted former running back Rashad Penny for a visit. The 28-year-old Penny, who was previously the number 27 overall pick back in the 2018 draft, showed flashes of talent during 5 injury-marred seasons with Seattle before he signed a one-year deal with the Eagles in March of last year. He played pretty sparingly with Philadelphia last year, rushing for just 33 yards on only 11 carries, as he was essentially 4th on the Eagles depth chart behind DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott as well. Penny rushed for 1,918 yards as well as 13 touchdowns across his 5 seasons with the Seahawks, averaging 5.7 yards per carry over that stretch. He did catch fire during the final 5 games of the 2021 season, which had a lot of fans hoping that maybe this was it. He was finally breaking through, and then made it a difficult decision for the organization to want to bring him back long-term or give him a shorter-term deal, as he ran for 671 yards and 6 touchdowns at 7.3 yards per carry as he filled in for injured starter Chris Carson. 2 days later, the team invited quarterback Corey Curtis to minicamp. In addition to several visits from top prospects in this upcoming draft, with multiple meetings with Michigan's J.J. McCarthy, Oregon's Bo Nix, UCF's Johnny Rees Plumlee, and Spencer Rattler from the University of South Carolina, not Southern. The team also invited former Ohio State quarterback Corey Curtis to their rookie minicamp. Curtis never actually got on the field for the Ohio State Buckeyes, so he transferred to Bryant and then to D2 school Gannon, where you see the photo on your screen from, where he started 2 years throwing 47 touchdowns and 11 interceptions total. Since that time, he has been playing in the Arena League. So this is kind of an interesting one. It's kind of an out of left field sort of thing. Obviously, Seattle has some scouts all over the board. So it's kind of funny to hear if we ever do how they're able to find Curtis here. But definitely, we're getting to that time where, you want to give guys a shot. You want people to compete in camp, and getting a guy like Curtis an invitation does just. So outside of looking at mini camp and stuff like that, with the Seahawks getting to go to stuff like that and getting to host events such as that because of the new coach, there's also looking ahead to the NFL draft. The NFL draft scheduled to be held around campus, Marcius Park and Hart Plaza in Detroit, Michigan, spans from April 25th through April 27th. That is Thursday, through Saturday for Seattle. Obviously the 16th pick that they have is the big talk there. It'll be really interesting to see whether or not they actually decide to use that pick and go with somebody. If we're going to do this thing that we did last year where I have to sit here and pick who I think that Seattle's going to take, I think it's just going to be an edge rusher. I'd go a lot out of UCLA. A lot of mocks have had offensive lineman Troy Fatuanu from University of Washington going there. There's the calls for Michael Penix Jr. to get picked there by Seattle. They could also trade out of it, which they've done historically in the past, but obviously it's a new regime. So above all else, I'm saying they're going to take a defensive player and an edge rusher. That's my pick. That's what it is. And I'm going to leave it at that. So we go from the Seahawks over into our Mariners segment of things. And I'd say it's a good week. It wasn't, they're not on a 6-game winning streak, but they've won 5 of their last 6 games. And that starts with this 3-game sweep of the Cincinnati Reds to close out their most recent homestand. That 3-game series began on April 15th versus the Reds, a 9-3 victory. Our player of the game, designated hitter Mitch Hamaker. Mitch, 2 hits, 2 runs, 3 RBIs, and 1 walk on the day. In this game also, as you can see with our player of the game here from our guy Kevin, outfield prospect, 10th overall prospect in the Mariners organization, Jonathan Clase, was able to he made his MLB debut, and not only that, he recorded his first MLB hit and his first MLB RBI. That came on an RBI single in the 6th inning of this game. Just a really great win for the Mariners to go out there and be able to handle business against a Reds team that's dynamic, that's young, that's got a lot of fun talent on it, like Elly De La Cruz. Former Mariner Jake Fraley was able to do some damage in this series, but the Mariners were able to take care of business the right way in Game 1, get the offense going. They were able to jump on Frankie Montas early into the game, control the strike zone, all that sort of stuff, take the smart approach, not swing it, make the better swing decisions, right? And then take advantage of the pitches that work into your favor. Game 2 of the series, April 16th, versus the Reds, a 3-1 win, so a little bit tighter, not as much offense, but it's still a victory, giving them their first series win of the season. Our player of the game, starting pitcher Logan Gilbert, 6 2/3 innings pitched for Walter, 3 hits, 1 earned run against, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts on the day. A tight one, but a nice one for the Mariners. I believe the stat was that Logan Gilbert is 30-0 in his career when the Mariners give him 3 runs or more of run support, and they continued that. They did the bare minimum here in terms of that stat, but it does count, and they do get the win there. No photo of the game there, unfortunately. Our photographer for the night had to call in sick. That's what happens. It's life. To close out the series on Wednesday, the getaway game to close out the 6-game homestand and obviously that 3-game series. The Mariners break out the brooms April 17th versus the Reds, a 5-1 victory. Our player of the game, catcher Cal Raleigh. Raleigh, 1 hit, 1 run, 2 RBIs, 2 walks on the day as well for the big dumper. His 1 hit, as you can see, was a solo homer as he's got the home run trident there in our photo of the game by Liz Walter. Nice way to close out the homestand there. Holding the Reds to just 2 runs over the last 2 games of the series, 3 in that first one. But, even then, that's pretty average. You can't really be mad at that. But to hold them to 2 runs over those last 2 games with how dynamic and young that offense is for Cincinnati is impressive, and it shows you just how good the pitching staff is, whether it's the rotation to the bullpen. And then you think about the bullpen and not having guys like Matt Brash, like Gregory Santos, even a guy like Eduard Bazardo. So we move on from there. The Mariners headed out on the road to begin a 6-game road trip, their second road trip of the season. Began April 20th at the Rockies, was a 7-0 win. It would have originally began on the 19th, Friday, April 19th, but that game got snowed out, so they had to play a doubleheader on Sunday, as you can see on your screen. That's why there are 2 dates, 2 games on the 21st. April 20th, though, a 7-0 win. This game wasn't clear without weather, though, as there was snow throughout it. There was a ton of snow in the beginning that the grounds crew was able to remove, which is great to see. Very nice, and kudos to the Rockies grounds crew in that regard. But then throughout the course of this game, it was fine in the beginning, but then the snow did come down a little bit throughout it. And starting pitcher Luis Castillo, who is our player of the game, was rock solid throughout it. La Piedra had his best start of the season after there was concern. There was a graphic showing the different degrees in which Castillo made his starts in by the temperature, right? And within intervals of 10, and as it got colder, Castillo got worse and worse. And as it got hotter, he got better and better. That didn't matter today. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts in a snowstorm. Really, really impressive stuff from Luis Castillo, and a lot to be happy with in Game 1. So that pushes the win streak to 4. April 21st, Game 1 of that doubleheader, the Mariners would lose this one in extra innings, 1-2. Our player of the game, starting pitcher George Kirby, 5 innings pitched, 5 hits allowed, no runs against, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. 5 scoreless innings is pretty solid, but because he didn't get to the 6th inning, it snaps the Mariners' streak of quality starts at 8. Whatever stat. The Mariners offense, though, really couldn't get going. As you can see, just the 1 run. That 1 run did come in extra innings. J.P. Crawford hit a single to right field. And Andres Munoz struggling a little bit with control in the bottom of the 10th, and the Rockies are able to walk it off. There was some madness in this one. It looked like Jacob Stallings of the Colorado Rockies was going to hit a walk-off homer in the bottom of the 9th. But because a fan leaned over into the field of play and blocked Dylan Moore in left field from being able to complete a catch or even really make a complete attempt at a catch, it was taken back for fan interference, and the inning ended to send us into extras. So Game 2 of that doubleheader, which came about 2 hours after this first game wrapped up, the Mariners win in pretty convincing fashion, I'd say, 10-2. Our player of the game, catcher Cal Raleigh. Raleigh, 2 hits, 1 run, and 3 RBIs on the day. It's a 2-run homer for Cal in this one. For his second hit of the day, just a big one to add on to this list. Everybody was contributing. Cal was actually designated hitter in this game, so I apologize. Heavy Zavala was catching in this one. He had an impressive day, 3 hits on the day. He had 1 ball that was a fly out to left field that was all the way to the warning track. There was a lot of good things in this Rockies series, not so much in Game 2 of the series, obviously, in that first game of the doubleheader. But, anytime you look at 6 games, I think teams are going to be fine with taking 5 wins out of those 6 games in total. Talking about Cal, he is our player of the week. Over the last 7 games, Cal's been hitting the ball really well. 9 hits, 4 runs, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 6 walks as well. That's important. You look at the hits and the homers, that's great. That's impressive. You'd like to see that. But, getting on the bases as well, creating traffic for your other hitters in the lineup to drive you in, that is important. Driving the pitch count up for the opposing pitcher, whether that's the starter or later into the games with the relievers as well. That's important. So that's, another reason why when I was thinking about this player of the week, I was like, well, Cal makes a lot of sense. Let's go with him. A 375 batting average, a 484 on base percentage, and then 750 slugging percentage as well. That's our player of the week, Cal Raleigh. From our player of the game, we go into some injury-related news here. We got some updates throughout the course, of the past week. We talked about Class A last week and him being called up because of the Dom Canzone injury. We found out on the 15th some more news about that. We didn't get a timeline set specifically for Canzone, but we get to get some news on that. So he has an MRI on his left shoulder. There's no structural damage. It is that left AC joint. He won't need surgery, thankfully, but he will be out for at least a few weeks. So expect to see Class A around for a decent bit of time. And, with the way that he's played, truthfully, there's no reason to send him down, at least in this moment of time. If he struggles heavily when he starts to experience some better pitching, then maybe, but at least for now, he's playing well. On the 21st, we heard some stuff about some different pitchers. Right-handed pitcher Brian Wu pitched 3 scoreless innings of a rehab assignment with the Tacoma Rainiers, something that we heard about him potentially doing at the beginning of the homestand from general manager Justin Hollander. So no surprise there, but nice to see that it went well for Wu after he was dealing with some inflammation, and there was some thought that might be a long-term injury. Also, reliever Matt Brash will pitch one more time down in Peoria as he's trying to ramp back up. Then his schedule for a rehab stint will be determined. It's best to see how they can bring him back. Regarding team-related news, on the 17th, outfielder Sam Haggerty was reinstated from the 10-day injured list and optioned to AAA Tacoma. The 29-year-old began the season on the 10-day IL with a medical procedure that has not been made clear to the media quite yet. He appeared in 6 games with AAA Tacoma during his rehab assignment as he was batting .286 with 2 runs, 1 double, 2 stolen bases, 3 walks, and a .708 on-base percentage plus slugging. He appeared in 9 games during spring training prior to that injury. So, again, it would be really interesting to see if we ever find out what this procedure was. Just unfortunate to know that, it was something that held him out. And it seems like for now they're going to continue to get him at bats down in Tacoma with the Rainiers. On the 21st, relief pitcher Cody Bolton was reinstated from the injured list. He served as the 27th player for the doubleheader that day. And then early into game 2 of that doubleheader, infielder Luis Urias left the game with a right wrist contusion. Post-game, Scott Service said he should be fine by the time that the team gets to Texas. And we haven't heard of that yet because the time that you're going to see this, the Mariners had an off day on Monday, April 22nd. Also on the 22nd, the team optioned right-handed pitcher Britt DeGust to AAA Tacoma following the game on April 21st. The 26-year-old righty reliever was selected from Tacoma back on April the 8th and appeared in 4 games, going no wins, no losses with a 2.70 ERA, recording no walks and 2 strikeouts. He appeared in 3 games with the Rainiers prior to being called up by the big league club, recording 1 save in that span of time. So, looking at this past week for the Mariners, there's not a lot you can be super mad about. It's nice to see them really getting into this approach that they talked about, better swing decisions, taking advantage of the bad pitches that they do get and really being able to drive them out. It's great to see that. It is against 2 teams that aren't necessarily marquee, though. And the next 9 games that this team's going to have to play, 3 against the Rangers, 3 against the Diamondbacks, and then 3 against the Atlanta Braves. This is going to be a challenging stretch for the Mariners. Their lineup, not only their lineup, but also their pitching staff. Obviously, the Mariners have one of the best rotations in all of baseball, and they've got some great relievers right now as well, even without Brash and Santos at the moment. But I mean, obviously, we know what the Rangers can do with their lineup, and even some of those guys, knock on wood, aren't hot quite yet. You know, you look at the Diamondbacks; they got to the World Series and played that Rangers team and provided some spark. And then the Braves. I mean, they've got one of the best lineups in all of baseball. So it's not going to be easy. You play the defending champs, the runners-up, and then the Braves, all in a span of 9 games. It's not going to be easy. But it should be a good proving ground. You know, the Mariners struggled offensively to begin the season, and their rotation really, aside of some starts from Bryce Miller and Logan Gilbert, really kind of struggled. And it seems like both sides are starting to pick themselves up and get into a groove of sorts. But like I said, it's going to be a great proving ground for them over the course of these next 9 games. So we look ahead to these next 9 games. They begin on April 23rd, Tuesday, against the Rangers down in Texas. Is a 5:05 p.m. Pacific time start. April 24th against the Rangers is also a 5:05 p.m. Pacific time start. We continue to go over it here. April 25th at the Rangers, the final game of that series before the team will return home to Seattle, is an 11:35 a.m. start. It should be a decent one for Seattle. I talk about, you know, the caution and how much of a proving ground this should be for the Mariners. But you'll have Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, and Luis Castillo all pitching in the series against the Rangers. So, I mean, you've got three of your best arms going. It's hard to complain about that. Then when the Mariners return home to begin in the next homestand 3 on the season, starts with 3 games set against the Arizona Diamondbacks and a few familiar faces. Actually, I don't know if I don't believe Paul Sewell will be on this trip. I think he just actually went down on a rehab assignment with the Reno Aces. Anyway, April 26th versus the Diamondbacks is a 6:40 p.m. first pitch that Friday. It is Mariners turn ahead the clock Jersey night. April 27th versus the Diamondbacks, also a 6:40 p.m. start that Saturday. It's 90s night. The giveaway is a Mariners neon hat. And then April 28th versus the Diamondbacks is a 1:10 start. That is another Little League day, and kids who, upon leaving the ball game post-game, will receive a Cal Raleigh poster. So fun, all 3 games of that series against the Diamondbacks team that went all the way to the World Series just last year. Before we continue over to our Seattle Storm segment of the show, and that will be a very nice, very fun, jam-packed segment of the show just because of everything that the Storm announced and did over the past week. Obviously, we've got our Layup Lounge segment of the show. This is the 7th installment of the Layup Lounge on Circling Seattle Sports. So thankful, of course, as always, to Wayne and Roman for chopping it up. Last week, they previewed the NBA playoffs. We're a few games into that right now, so we'll throw it over to Wayne and Roman in their studio to hear from them for the 7th installment of the Layup Lounge and Circling Seattle Sports.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Layup Lounge. My name is Roman. I'm here with my guy Wayne. How you doing, bro?
Good. How you doing, Ro?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing good. We got a few things to talk about today. We can just get right into it. So our Seattle Storm, they just opened up a new practice facility sometime this last week. And we kind of seen a little bit of like videos and things like that. It looks pretty nice. You know, this is definitely a big upgrade after they were practicing at SPU for a very long time. And I've seen that court, and I feel like it was definitely time for them to have their own practice facility.
Yeah.
And they finally got it. What was your reaction to it?
You said it best. I mean, we've all kind of been to the SPU gym, and you don't even know the Storm's court is in there. It's like deep in like the trenches. But like once I actually saw it, I was like, man, I didn't know the Storm practice here. That was like awe-inspiring to me. But now that they have their own facility, I think it's like good for the brand, good for the Storm's organization. And I think it's just going to be a good experience for the Seattle basketball. The fact that they have their own facility, it's going to be somewhere we can go. And like you said, we got to see some cool shots of inside. Shout out to Circling Sports, getting that early scoop on the inside of the Seattle Storm's new arena. So that's how we're able to go ahead and peep some of that. So shout out to y'all over there again. Thank you for allowing us to do this local hoop talk.
Absolutely.
But no, I think it's just good for the Seattle basketball scene. It's just another basketball hub where Women's basketball one is going to get a lot of attention, but outside of that, just basketball in general. They could hold high school games there. If they could hold like bigger
like AU tournaments and stuff like that.
Whatever
yeah,
it looks like,
sure.
it's just like another major facility that's going to have a legacy here in Seattle.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good look. And like you said, just for women's basketball in general, I think this is the first facility that's been built from the ground up. I know that the Las Vegas Aces, they also have their own practice facility. And so, I mean, I think that this is going to be a trend moving forward, and I hope to see more of this. I hope to see more of this going forward.
Across the league, yeah.
Absolutely. And shout out to our draft pick.
Nika Mule. I believe it is. If we ain't getting it right, we'll learn it soon.
Oh, absolutely.
Number 10 from UConn, though. We watched your tournament run. D'ing up Caitlin Clark, playing hard defense, orchestrating things on offense. Seattle's familiar with number 10 from UConn.
Oh, for sure.
We're not saying you have big shoes to fill, but there's some expectations. But no, it's all love. Welcome to the 206. And we're excited for whatever comes with like your talent that you're bringing to our city. So welcome.
And we saw her at the Kelsey Plum dog camp, I believe it was called. They're basically it's almost like a showcase training camp type situation. I saw them doing yoga with dogs. It was interesting for sure. And so, I think that's cool.
I feel like she's going to be one of those faces in women's sports that we see for a long time. And it's cool that we got a draft pick out of this draft. That's like that next wave of like the first true wave of women's WNBA basketball where everyone's kind of eyes is on their game. And we have a draft pick in that draft where it's like, okay, we have a bid in that pretty much. So that's cool.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, the women's game is moving up. I think the next step is the expansion. Because a lot of these draft picks, they might not get picked up by the team they got drafted by just because there's limited roster spots. And so it's looking like Nika's going to be on our team. They're showcasing her as such, like throughout the Seattle Storm socials. So I think she's safe, but I think just another step is making sure that everybody feels safe once they get drafted for sure.
100%. That expansion draft that's going to hook somebody.
Nah, for sure. And, speaking of women's hoop, shout out Katie Fiso. She was out there doing her thing at the Jordan Brand Classic.
Yeah.
Her, along with other top women's basketball players, going to various colleges, just out there showcasing their talent. I think it's somewhat kind of like a McDonald's All-American type situation. Just one of those games. So shout out to her.
Shout out to Katie. Keep putting Seattle hoop on the map. That Jordan Brand exclusive it's exclusive. I mean, not everyone gets invited.
Yeah.
So the fact that we got somebody from the town going representing, even got the League Fits feature, which was pretty cool. Like that was big.
That was fire.
So shout out to Katie. Keep doing your thing. We'll be keeping up with you at Oregon.
Longtime assistant, former player Will Conroy. It has been in the news that he has decided to go to USC and join their staff in a similar role. It's a great look for him. It's a good thing for him, but this might be bad for us and our recruits down here at UW. Talk about that real quick.
He was a pivotal piece of just like the entire local recruiting scene here in Seattle. We know what he did for the UW program while as a player. So the fact that he still had like ties here. I know his son plays for Rotary, I believe. So it's just kind of like that whole pipeline of like potentially the young players going to UW or like the young talented players that we have here in Washington going to UW. So losing that connection, I feel like it kind of hurts us. I know for a fact we have one of the best point guards in the nation committed to UW, Zoom Diallo. So for now, that's what we're saying. So
for now, I'm pretty sure Will Conroy had a lot to do with him deciding to go to UW. So I mean, we might see him in USC jersey. Who knows?
And he's in California right now. He's playing for a prolific prep. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense in my head, but hopefully UW is able to retain him.
He might take that secret visit. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, we see the edit of him in a USC jersey. Before we go, I would just kind of, because we see the impact like Will Conroy has in Washington basketball, but who's the most impactful like person in terms of like Washington hoops in general?
I'm going to say Jamal Crawford. Yeah. I think it has to. I'm going to say Jamal Crawford for now. Just one, the crossover. That's like a big thing in Seattle. Like that takes over the entire summer scene. Everyone in Seattle's trying to get down to the games, see who's going to be at the games.
Especially someone like LeBron.
Come on, like he's bringing names to the town, like especially without the Sonics. So the fact that Jamal's been able to put on and also be like a mentor to the younger dudes, that's like a big part of his inspiration to the city is mentoring these young dudes, your DeJountes, your Paulos, helping them get a pathway to the NBA. So I feel like for sure Jamal Crawford. There's also the Rainier Beaches court, Jamal Crawford court now. So shout out to Jamal.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And yeah, in terms of just Seattle basketball impact, he's definitely up there. There's got to be a statue of him somewhere in Seattle.
100%.
Like if it's outside of SPU, just because he's held his event there for so long, or just even outside of climate. Honestly, I think that he needs some shine. He needs some more recognition than he's getting for sure.
100%.
Is there anything else you got?
Good money.
Yeah, that's going to do it for us here at the Layup Lounge. Shout out Circling Seattle Sports. Shout out Chuck. Shout out to the team.
Let's go, Chuck.
We're out of here.
Let's do it.
It's always great to hear Wayne and Roman. It's so cool, man. Like not to get too off track, but to have the sort of conversations at O'Day, whether it was our little mentor groups. If you're O'Day, you know what a mentor group is. With Wayne and hearing the conversations and the debates that happened in mentor group, or throughout just basically everything, whether it was class, going to classes, at lunch, before school, after school, on the way to practices. Like there was always debates going on at O'Day. So it's so cool for me to be able to bring some guys who are doing their own thing. Again, they're killing it. The Layup Lounge, continues to pass the milestones in terms of hundreds and hundreds of subscribers, and they're getting guys like T-Mac. T-Mac commented on one of their reels on IG, man. Like, I mean, hey, they're doing their thing. I'm so proud of them. So shout out Wayne and Roman. Keep doing your thing, and we'd love to have you on week by week when you can. So we'll get into it. As they alluded to, we've got the Storm segment. There's a lot going on. There's obviously there's the facility. We'll talk about that, but we'll go in order of the week and as these announcements were made. So on the 17th of April, the Storm announced their partnership with Starbucks. So I'll get through the release and all the details that come with this. They announced their goodness. The wording in this release is just bear with me, okay? The Storm announced it has brewed a purpose-led, community-driven partnership with Starbucks, making the premier roaster and retailer of specialty coffee the first founding partner of the Storm's new state-of-the-art Center for Basketball Performance and the official coffee and tea of the franchise. The hometown partnership illustrates both organizations' commitment to Seattle by focusing on two areas of significance: housing and community impact. As part of this shared commitment to the community, Starbucks will become a supporting partner of the most comprehensive youth basketball program in Storm history, as it helps provide free scholarships to underserved youth in the Puget Sound region to attend the camps and clinics. So that's cool. I can appreciate that. Together, both the Storm and Starbucks will create an environment for local nonprofits to amplify resources available to those in need, invite community members to experience home games, and create a sense of belonging at the new Storm Center for Basketball Performance. The Starbucks and Storm will also launch Rebounds for Housing, which is a new season-long initiative through which the organizations will donate a minimum of $20,000 to the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, acronym ULMS, to help our unhoused community. This effort will become part of the Storm's social justice platform, Force for Change, and its Stats for Youth program. Thanks to Starbucks, every rebound by a Storm player throughout the 2024 season will generate a donation to ULMS, which is a nonprofit offering a wide range of programs and services designed to address housing needs, financial literacy barriers, and access to basic economic resources in low-income and otherwise vulnerable communities. This partnership comes at a historic time for the Storm, as it prepares to inaugurate the franchise's first ever practice facility. This release did come a day before the facility opened, mind you, designed and built specifically for the team and front office. In addition to this, the Storm's new headquarters will support bringing people together and fostering a sense of inclusion and belonging throughout community programming. As the first official partner of the barrier-breaking building, Starbucks has shown a commitment to supporting the Storm's vision to drive connection within sports, the sports community, and beyond. So there's that. There's so much happening with the Storm. I'm so, Christian, if you're watching this, just know I appreciate you. There's so much going on. And Christian, our new writer who is contributing with the Storm stuff, our Storm content has been a big help. So we'll continue with that. Hours before the facility opened, the Storm unveiled. Well, it was made known that this announcement was going to come out. It's just there's so much happening in one day. The Storm unveiled the 2024 Nike Rebel Edition uniform. So they've taken the Nike Rebel uniforms for the Storm that we know as these the black jerseys with kind of like a grungy feel a little bit with some of the designs on them, and they've revamped it. So the new uniform from Nike stands as a symbol of the basketball culture in Seattle, a beacon of defiance against the status quo and the rebel mentality that the city and team adhere to. I didn't hear anything about the Seattle Freeze. Anyway, owned by a group of passionate women, the Storm opts to break boundaries and carve its own path to victory with unbridled passion. As a team with a strong history of winning and empowering women, the Storm has always been a force of nature, both on the court and off, and this Nike Rebel Edition uniform is a true reflection of that fact. Lightning bolts take center stage on the uniform's design, with two big, bold neon green bolts going down the side panels and one incorporated into the logo on the short patch. The electrified font on the new Storm word mark and the Seattle belt buckle, which we don't have any pictures of the shorts here, were also inspired by the weather in the Pacific Northwest and the energy this team brings to everything it does. 6 WNBA teams are debuting the new WNBA Nike Rebel Edition uniform for the 2024 season, including our Storm, but also the Chicago Sky, Connecticut Sun, LA Sparks, Las Vegas Aces, and Phoenix Mercury. The uniforms were created to pay homage to important moments, muses, and movements in the WNBA's and each team's history and the impact made on the game and communities. The WNBA Nike Rebel collection strengthens the connection between the fans, the community, and the teams. The Storm will first bring out these new Rebel uniforms when Seattle tips off the 2024 season against the Minnesota Lynx at Climate Pledge Arena on Tuesday, May 14th, with a tip-off time of 7 p.m. Pre-sales are now available, and you'll be able to buy these jerseys at home games at Climate Pledge Arena in the team store. From there, we will go directly, as I'm trying to get it done here, directly over to the new facility. There's a bunch to look at here. We're going to give you a look at the court first while I talk. The Storm announced the opening of its groundbreaking Center for Basketball Performance, which opens its doors for the start of training camp on April 28th, marking a significant milestone in women's professional basketball. This $64 million new build is the first dedicated WNBA practice facility designed and built from the ground up, showcasing the Storm's pioneering vision for the future of women's basketball. The Storm's Center for Basketball Performance sets a new standard for athletic excellence as it spans 50,000 square feet as the team's dedicated practice facility and the team headquarters. So not only are the team here practicing, recovering, and training, but also the front office, the operations staff, so on and so forth, are located in this building. The center boasts 2 indoor basketball courts. We'll go back to that photo of the courts. 2 outdoor 3v3 courts, we'll get to that in a minute. And an exclusive suite for the Seattle Storm that includes a locker room. Go back to the locker room, a nutrition center. Shoot, I don't have one of those loaded up. And a player lounge. Here's the cold tub for the recovery. Designed with a focus on high performance, the facility features the latest in strength and conditioning, equipment, health and wellness suites, and an aquatic center, which you're looking at right now. Located in the Seattle's Inner Bay neighborhood, the facility also houses the Storm's business headquarters on the second floor, as I mentioned. The integration of its on-court and off-court teams under one roof fosters new creativity and the opportunity for future growth. Beyond serving the needs of professional athletes, the Center for Basketball Performance will also be the home for a comprehensive youth basketball program, optimizing the new facility to inspire and nurture the next generation of basketball talent, as mentioned in that press release from Starbucks. Obviously I mentioned the Starbucks partnership, but the Storm welcomed Starbucks and Providence Swedish as founding partners of its facility. There was the news about Starbucks, obviously. So the Starbucks products will be served in the staff and player cafes, along with brand integration in those spaces. As the Storm's official healthcare partner since 2016, this is a continuation of the franchise's existing partnership with Providence Swedish. The medical team will continue to deliver comprehensive medical care and sports medicine services for those elite athletes. State-of-the-art sports medicine care will be provided at that practice facility as well for game coverage, training, and injury management. Both partnerships will feature brand inclusion on the practice court surface, basket stanchion pads, see if you can see them in there, not so much. And they will support the Storm's community youth basketball initiatives. Before I continue, there's more than this. There's more news from the Storm than just this. I will say, as someone who got to experience the facility, take a look at it firsthand, hear from co-owners Lisa Brummel and Ginny Gilder, who we'll hear from here in a second, it was pretty ridiculous, just ridiculous in a good way as well. To go through, you saw the stairs where that court is. That's the championship court from Key Arena that they sanded down and repainted the new logo over. There's the shoe wall above it with each sneaker that tells a different story. Seeing the aquatic center, seeing the recovery center that will always have staff on hand for the players. Seeing the locker room with has input from the players into it, whether it's the chair size or how much room they need in the locker. The courts were the crown jewel, and I think they're meant, and I don't mean that to be a pun because of Jewel Lloyd. Hi, Jewel. But as someone who, grew up, and I did play at the SPU courts where the Storm were, it's just incredible to see them get an actual dedicated facility. It means a lot because my parents, growing up, had season tickets to the Storm in Key Arena. I remember waiting and outside for one of the championship celebrations in the rain, and they brought us into Key Arena, and I was still cold, but you were happy because you're celebrating the championship. It's really cool to see them take this next step and go into this facility. So before I keep yapping, we will hear from co-owner Ginny Gilder as we got to talk with her one-on-one at the unveiling of this new Storm Center for Basketball Performance.
Process, but has this exceeded your expectations even of what it is right now?
Honestly, I would have to say it has not exceeded my expectations because my expectations adjusted through the whole process.
Okay, yeah.
So seeing it's more a sense of disbelief, even though I've been involved since before there was before, like at the birth of the dream, I was there. But somehow seeing it, I'm just still in this place of, you have to pinch me. I can't, is this real? Because it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it is so iconic Seattle, which, the Storm is really all about Seattle. We are an expression, a representation of the city, and aspirants to be kind of Seattle's best self, if you will. So to see this realized and kind of hitting there, this is a place where Seattleites are going to be proud of. So I love that. But does it surpass my expectations? No. We had such an amazing team working on this. The architects, Stellan Construction, incredible. Barry Antos Ryan, our owners reps, they were always raising the bar themselves, and they brought so much to it, so that from the beginning, it was really clear we were going to have an amazing home at the end of the day.
That was great. That wasn't even one of my listed questions.
Sorry.
That was incredible. That'll be great. To continue with that, during a lot of change in the WNBA, players are choosing organizations that really do put them first, right? As representatives of the ownership group, obviously, what does it mean to you in Seattle, and how you continue to expound on the explosion of women's basketball? Because obviously, in recent times, a lot of people are just kind of being awoken to how great women's basketball is. You know what I mean?
So we've always known women's basketball was great, and our fans have always known that women's basketball is an experience they want to be part of.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's gratifying what's happening, and we designed and built this building, the center, intentionally to forward the dialogue, if you will, and raise the expectation of what girls and women deserve when it comes to facilities for athletes. So for us, sure, it was a business decision in terms of how do we keep Seattle on the map so that the best of the WNBA will want to be here, but it's also about more than that. It's just the long trajectory of generating access to opportunity for girls and women through the vehicle of sports.
Before any of the big offseason moves were made, obviously with NECA and Skylar, I mean, the draft was pretty exciting for numerous reasons. You know, obviously Jewel was priority number one for all intents and purposes. And she was asked to trust the process, right? Because obviously this was on the way, and you know, you hadn't officially signed anybody yet for free agency. There was a big step to take there.
That's right.
It's obviously since paid off pretty decently, I'd say. If possible, is there anything that you can share as far as the nature of those talks and how free agency might have went, or how much of it was just kind of letting the staff do their thing and the trust in that staff?
Well, I think that, you know, what you said, Jewel did have to take a leap of faith that in committing to stay here with a roster that was not championship caliber, that she was trusting our group, our staff, to build around her. And the thing is that in some ways it's a leap of faith, but in another way, you look at the strength of our leadership team, you look at the strength of our GM, coaching staff. It's not like you're looking back and thinking, you know, there's like, what have they done? You're looking back at a certain history. Mm-hmm. And so that brings you credibility. And I think we felt Jewel was absolutely our number one priority. And after that, once she was on board, she became part of the process. So, you know, I think Jewel is really the best person to talk to about what her decision process was. We tried to make it as easy as possible for her because, you know, she knew us and she knew that we would do everything in our power to build a competitive team, a team that could compete. I loved what NECA said in her first press conference, and I think, you know, it's you can never win everything. It's just not how life is. And the truth is, we humans wouldn't want that. We love underdogs, you know, and we don't like it when someone's on top all the time, right? So that's what we're trying to do is set the stage for the Seattle Storm to be able to compete, not just this year, but well into the future.
And then to wrap you up, I think I know the answer just because it was talked about in that room over there, but you know, with how intricate the details are in this building, whether it's the storm drains being the Storm logo, championship court being used in a conference room up there for a table, what are some of your favorite touches? Because obviously it was talked about, you do the little things right and it will help you, you know, in the long run.
So my favorite thing right now about the center is how light it is. You do not walk in here and feel like you're in a warehouse or in a cave. You are part, you know, to the extent that you can have the outdoors here inside, we do. And I love that. There's just, especially in Seattle, having access to the sunshine, but also the cloud cover is important. For me, some of the details aren't here yet. Not all the art is up. But what you'll see when this building is really finally complete is this is both a nod to our past and all the people who helped bring us here, as well as creating promise for the future. And that's what I love about this place. You see it, you know, with the sneaker wall where Brum is talking about. You see it with the championship floor from the Key. That's some of our history. So you get the history and it centers and locates people. Like, we are not a fly-by-night organization, and we now are here solidly in a way we weren't. And wow, what does that make possible for the future? And that's probably what I love most about this building.
So, you know, hearing from Ms. Gilder was pretty incredible. You know, whether it's the details that she mentioned throughout the course of the facility, you know, Jewel Lloyd having to take a leap of faith, which I will now take the time to direct you to our website, circlingseattlesports.com. That's Christian Braswell. Our Storm writer did a great piece on that, taking, you know, Jewel's commitment and her leap of faith and talking about the facility as well. So go and check that out on our website. but just hearing about it, and hearing from someone who was part of the process for this facility, part of the process to, not only bring those 4 championships previously to this franchise, but to bring in Nagagumake and Skylar Diggins-Smith this offseason. So pretty remarkable. We will continue with the news. We have a slight piece of news here on the 19th. The WNBA announced a date change for the 2024 Canada game. The preseason contest between the Sparks, Los Angeles Sparks, and our Seattle Storm was originally scheduled for May 5th at the Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It'll now take place on Saturday, May 4th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time due to the NHL playoffs first-round schedule, as the Edmonton Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings are playing in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So there's that. Continuing on with that, on the 22nd, we got the news that the team had signed forward Quay Miller to round out the training camp roster. Miller is a local product hailing from Renton, Washington. She was at Kent Ridge High School and began her collegiate career at the University of Washington. After 2 seasons at UW, Miller transferred to Colorado, where she twice earned all Pac-12 honors and averaged 10.9 points and 7.2 rebounds per game across 99 games with the Buffs. Colorado was 71-28 in her 3 seasons in Boulder, reaching the NCAA tournament all 3 seasons, including 2 trips to the Sweet 16 over her final 2 years. With that news of Quinn Miller, we got the finalization of the training camp roster. So here's what that roster looks like. We can see Kayla Davis here. We'll go in order, and this is an order actually of numbers. So, I have this up. And it's not loading. We'll just go in order. There's Kayla Davis, Nika Mule, Kiana Williams, Nneka Agwumike, Skylar Diggins-Smith, Jade Melbourne, sorry, didn't want to say that incorrectly. Joyner Holmes, Quake Miller, Dulcie Fenka-Menciadu, Ezzie Magbagor, Mercedes Russell, Jordan Horston, Jewel Lloyd, of course, Sammy Whitcomb, Victoria Vivians, and Elena Coates. So Davis wearing number 0, Nika Mule wearing number 1, Keanu Williams number 2, Skylar, Nneka 3, Skylar 4, Jade still 6, Joyner 8, Quay Miller wearing number 11, Dulcie wearing number 12, so Ezzie number 13. So no real changes with the players that have been here. Vivians will wear number 35 and Coates number 81. It's going to be tough. The roster is a 12-player roster. That's the WNBA limit. It'll be tough to see some of these players cut, but that's just how it is. And until the WNBA expands, we really won't be able to control a whole lot of that. So training camp, as mentioned previously in this segment, begins on April the 28th. Those preseason games, as I mentioned, that Edmonton one, that WNBA Canada game, versus the Los Angeles Sparks on Saturday, May 4th. Then the second and only preseason game at home for the Storm is Tuesday, May 7th versus Phoenix here at Climate Pledge Arena. Both of our soccer teams, and before we get to the rain, we've got our Sounders here. So tough one. After a few weeks ago, you had the big 5-0 win over Montreal. You felt a little good, but you had to be cautiously optimistic, as I mentioned, because that was a Montreal team that was coming off of a long road trip. And this, the Sounders part. I was thinking about the Storm. The Sounders, really needed to build off that and keep moving forward and make sure it wasn't just a flash in the pan. For now, so we go over here, April 21st versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. The first Cascadia clash of the season for the Sounders was a 2-0 loss. Seattle gets shut out. The Sounders actually looked like the better attacking team throughout the first half. A red card shown to Jackson Reagan in the 43rd minute for serious foul play upon review from the head referee. Dropped Seattle down to 10 men. It was somewhat of a questionable call, but either way, you need to play through it. You can't blame losses on the refs. Seattle even had a few chances early into the second half, but early into that second half, Yamar Gomez Andrade is trying to pass it around the back and build out of his own final third. The Vancouver is pressing hard. They take advantage of that. and it's a goal given up off of that turnover. It's the first of 2 goals off of turnovers, as a second one is scored off of a turnover, as Javier Arriaga is trying to dribble from his own box through 2 Vancouver Whitecaps players. He gets pickpocketed, and the Whitecaps score one-on-one against Stefan Fry. So not really much you could blame Fry for. This is just another example of the Sounders not being able to score, and it ends up hurting them as 2 of their own mistakes end up, inviting them and helping give them another loss on the season. Just an ugly one. I mean, there's not too much story outside of this. Alex Roldan did get a red card late into the match. I believe it was the 79th minute to put Seattle at 9 men, but they were already down by 2 at that point. It really didn't matter. I believe. I'm sorry. It was just such a wash of a match, and that Roldan foul, that Roldan red card was really just an example of this club really being in a mess. I mean, we haven't seen something like that from the Sounders in quite some time. And it was frustrating. It was frustrating to see it. I'm sure it was frustrating for the players who in the locker room post-game, Christian Roldan and Stefan Fry insisted that the locker room was not coming apart. You're to a point here with this club where the frustrations are boiling over, and you're already starting to wonder if the season's over. And we're 8 matches in. You've been shut out in 4 of those 8 matches, and you're getting to better health here, even though there's an injury news piece that we need to talk about. It all feels like this goal to the match by Liz Wolter. It's just you're looking at yourself fall apart and run into each other. And this is something that you can fix yourself, but it doesn't seem like, given the time that they've had to be able to do so, that they're going to be able to. So we'll get into that injury news. Here's your injury report. I mean, it's the same as last week. Reed Baker-Whiting, Pedro de la Vega, and Bradilio Rodriguez all out with hamstring injuries, but we got updates on every single one of them. On the 19th, we found out that de la Vega suffered a setback in his recovery. The Argentinian midfielder had been ramping up his training and was looking at a potential return to the field, actually. It would have been 7 weeks from the injury. His initial timeline that was announced was 6 to 8 weeks, so it would have been right in there. Was ramping things up, but he had to leave Wednesday's training session. Had been dealing with some pain and now has a new injury with the same hamstring that he was dealing with, but it's a little bit lower down his leg. The club will not have a recovery timeline until next week, and it's the current week, so we'll find out just about any day now what the new timeline is, but it's frustrating. Another frustrating aspect of this match was in the post-game press conference. Head coach Brian Schmetzer, when talking about the struggles of this club in this season, said, well, we haven't had Pedro de la Vega in to really affect this team, so I can't give my – no, you can't say something like that because other teams aren't going to say, oh, well, they don't have Pedro de la Vega. We can't really attack them as hard. We can't really give them that same amount of effort. We can't push as hard. That's just not how this works. You've got to be able to take accountability. You've got plenty of the talent and the veteran experience, the veteran leadership to say, hey, we are better than this. We need to be better. We need to hold ourselves accountable and not – rely on those who aren't currently available to help us. That comment was pretty remarkable to hear, and I was surprised, quite frankly. So, anyway, there are other injury updates. Reed Baker-Whiting remains on track to return to full training this upcoming week. The club had hoped to have him back sooner, but he was dealing with pneumonia this past week that limited him in training. And then Bradilio Rodriguez continues to train off to the side during these training sessions. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury since the preseason. There's been no clear timeline, though, given for his return. So not the best week for injury-related updates. Go straight into team-related notes here. On the 16th, the club announced the hire of Craig, bear with me here, Dalrymple as head of professional player development. Craig brings more than 25 years of soccer coaching and player development experience, most recently at Inter Miami CF Academy as their director since 2021, following a decade with the Vancouver Whitecaps, where he briefly served as their interim head coach at the MLS level back in 2018. In this role with the Sounders, he will oversee the professional development of players with an emphasis on strengthening the pathway of the club's highest potential athletes, both on and off the field. Craig is 50, and he began his career in the MLS as the Whitecaps FC Academy Technical Director back in 2010, holding many roles across 10 years with the club as a vital part in the development system. In addition to his time as Academy Technical Director, the Vancouver, BC native served as the head coach for the Whitecaps FC's U23 squad and player development and recruitment director from 2018 to 2020. Following the dismissal of Carl Robinson, Dalrymple was named as the interim head coach for the Whitecaps FC's first team for the final 5 matches of the 2018 season, and the club would go 2 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw, narrowly missing the postseason by just 2 points. Dalrymple then moved on to become Inter Miami's academy director from 21 to 23, overseeing over 150 players from the U12 to U19 levels before he was hired by the Sounders. In his time with Miami and Vancouver, he helped elevate 25 homegrown players to the MLS level. Also, in team-related notes, on the 18th, we found out who the Sounders would be playing in the U.S. Open Cup this year. The club will face Louisville SC in the 2024 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup round of 32 on May 8th. That will take place with the kickoff time of 7:30 p.m. Pacific at Starfire Sports Complex. A draw to determine the pairings of the round of 32 was held earlier today by U.S. Soccer. That was on the 18th. Seattle has won the domestic knockout tournament 4 times since joining MLS in 2009, winning in 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2014. Should the Rave Green be able to advance past Louisville, they would host the winner of North Carolina FC and Phoenix Rising FC in the round of 16. So there's not too much thought to leave with this Sounders segment. It's just continued frustration, with it seems like a lack of accountability when we're banking on the injured players to save the day one day when you're 8 matches in and you've had the opportunities, you just haven't been clean enough to finish them. And the mistakes that you've made have all been mental, really, and on your own. They're your fault. They're not anybody else's fault. It's not like you're getting outclassed per se, right? So it's just frustration. And truthfully, at this point, with the 2 soccer clubs, I've said this online. Of the 2 soccer clubs in this city at the professional level, I trust the Reign to dig themselves out of it, just more than the Sounders do. So we'll see. Their next contest is on April 27th at BC United as the Sounders sit at a 1-win, 4-loss, 3-draw record. The Sounders have 6 points on the season. They sit at 26 overall in all of MLS and 12th in the Western Conference standings. That match against DC United on April 27th at Audi Field has a kickoff time of 4:30 p.m. Pacific. From the Sounders, we go over into our Kraken segment of the show, and we talk about accountability and this and that. And truthfully, all things taken into account, I'm okay with how the Kraken ended the season. That 4-game road trip to end the season, for a lot of us looking deep into the schedule when that first came out, or even through the course of the year, you thought, hey, you're playing teams like the Stars, like the Blues, like the Jets, and the Minnesota Wild. These are all teams that really could be in the Stanley Cup playoffs later. You're going to have to prove it or secure your playoff spot when you get to this final road trip of the season, right? Not so much, but the Kraken did display some nice play to close out the year, despite not the best season throughout the course of it. So April 16th at the Winnipeg Jets, a 3-4 loss. This game, Seattle had to come back from a deficit. They tied it up 3-3 in the final period, but the Jets get that 4th goal late, and Seattle has no answer. And the Jets, with this win over the Kraken, secured home ice advantage for the playoffs over the Colorado Avalanche. Our player of the game for Yanni Gord. Gord, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, a 2+-, 4 shots, and 3 hits on the night. Then from there, we go over to Minnesota, a team that also not going to the playoffs. So you're essentially playing for some pride at this point. You're playing to close out the season correctly, have some momentum going into the offseason and maybe into next year. And the Kraken win this one 4-3. This was a thrilling one. Seattle looked like the better team throughout the course of this game entirely. I mean, they just looked like the better hockey team all night. Minnesota put on a push late. And Seattle was able to get the go-ahead goal. Joey Decourt almost had a goalie goal in this one, but Brock Faber, coming on for his shift, was able to get in the way of it, block it, unfortunately. Some nice big block shots at the end of it by Matty Beniers and Brandon Tanev helped secure the win. So Seattle gets that victory to close out the 2023-2024 season. Our player of the game forward, Yanni Gourde, 2 goals, 2 points, a 2+- and 2 shots on the game. Both of his goals were shorthanded. So big effort there to get those shorthanded goals and help your team win to close out the season. With that, our player of the week, Yanni Gourde, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points, a 4+-, 6 shots, and 3 hits on those past 2 games of the season, those past 2 games of the week as well. Yanni Gourde didn't have the best second half. He really didn't look like the Yanni Gourde that we expected. Some people are like, where's his goal input? He hasn't always really been a big goal scorer. I mean, even during some of his prime years, the shooting percentage wasn't great, but it was nice to see him these last few games really close things up positively. The veteran who's become beloved by so many, not so much if you're playing against him. Tough to see a guy like him who always giving effort, always trying to improve his game, not perform so well, but Yanni was able to come out here, close out the regular season the right way. So, we'll briefly talk about it. There's not too much to look at with the Kraken, and they're closing out of the season. We've known for a while they weren't making the playoffs. We've known for a while what their issues are. It's just about wanting to see them finish out strong for a multitude of reasons. And then when the offseason approaches, which it's now here, there's a lot of decisions to be made, whether it's the free agents you're going to bring back, the unrestricted and the restricted, how you can improve, whether that's from within, with Shane Wright coming into the lineup next season, Riker Evans stepping in full-time next season, what trades you might make, the free agents you might make. There's the draft coming up as well. So, sending some guys down to Coachella Valley as the Firebirds have, they've got the best record in the Western Conference. They've secured a first-round bye. Seeing some of those young prospects sign their ELCs and go to Coachella Valley and learn there and get some valuable experience. So there's a bunch that goes into the offseason, and we're there now. So, there's not a lot that you can take away really from these last 2 games. I'm just happy with the effort, because if you're going to lose, make it fun. And that Jets game, but that Wild game, that Minnesota game was fun. Not so fun, though, was the ESPN commentary. Anyway, we'll go into our team-related news. We don't have a lot, but we have one piece of team-related news, and then we'll go over some stuff that we heard from the exit interviews. So on the 21st of April, the team signed forward a 2023 second-round pick, Carson Rakoff, to a 3-year entry-level contract. The 3-year, 2-way contract at $950,000 AAV is set to begin next season, and he is expected to report to Seattle's American Hockey League affiliate, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, on an amateur tryout contract for the remainder of the season. Rakoff, who stands at 6'3" and 195 pounds, totaled 95 points, 52 goals, and 43 assists in 60 regular season games with the Kitchener Rangers of the Ontario Hockey League, ranking 9th in the league in regular season scoring. He set OHL career highs in goals, assists, points, game-winning goals at 10, and points per game at 1.58, all of which also topped his team. Rakoff's 16th, there's a F at the end there, 16 power play goals were tied for the most in the OHL this season, and his 52 goals scored ranked 2nd in the league. Rakoff's efforts for this season earned him his team's nomination for the Red Tilson Trophy, which is awarded to the OHL's most outstanding player each year, and he was named the OHL Player of the Month for October of 2023. He added 11 points, 6 goals, 5 assists across 10 playoff games, leading his team in goals, and ranked 3rd in postseason scoring. Rakoff has spent the last 3 seasons, 21-22 to 2023-24 with the Rangers, recording 187 points, 100 goals, 87 assists in 193 regular season games, and adding 23 points, 12 goals, 11 assists in 31 postseason games. Rakoff is a native of Barrie, Ontario, and he represented his home country at the 2024 IIHF World Junior Championship, totaling 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists in 5 games. With this talk of Carson Rakoff, we bring in our good buddy RJ Eskinos from Emerald City Hockey to talk a little bit about him and some more. So, to my buddy RJ, take it away, my friend.
Hi, everyone. It's RJ from Emerald City Hockey again, and I'm going to talk about the Kraken's most recent signing and the Coachella Valley Firebirds gearing up for a playoff run. So, diving right into it, the Kraken signed last year's second-round pick Carson Rakoff to a 3-year entry-level contract, or ELC. Now that his junior season with the Kitchener Rangers is over, signing that ELC basically means that Rakoff can now report to the Firebirds for the remainder of their season. He'll join other Kraken prospects like Yanni Newman, David Goyette, Lucas Dragosivic, and Leighton Road, who have been recent additions to bolster that group for a playoff run. Generally, when a player is added after the junior season ends, they only play sparingly, if at all, in the Calder Cup playoffs. But Rakoff was so dominant in junior this year, he may get some playoff ice time, so we'll see where he slots into that lineup. Now, speaking of that playoff run, the Firebirds have finished their regular season, and we now know where they're going to be in the playoff bracket for the AHL. They won their division, so they've clinched a first-round bye. Now, after that, they're going to face the lowest remaining seed in the Pacific Division in a best-of-5 series. Then if they win that, they need to win another best-of-5 series, and then 2 best-of-7 series in order to win the Calder Cup. So it's a long road, but they did make it to the very end last year, and they have as good a chance as anyone this year. So I would highly, highly recommend watching on AHL TV if you haven't been already. These Firebirds are one of the most fun hockey teams I have ever seen. They play fast, fun hockey, and they know how to win in dramatic fashion. So definitely check them out during the playoffs and get your hockey fix. You will not regret it.
It's not a bad way to encourage you to check out the Kraken's HL affiliate. In terms of the affiliates and that, their ECHL affiliate, which is a step below the AHL, the Kansas City Mavericks swept Tulsa in their first round matchup. So that was nice to see. Not so much of the ECHL of prospects will really get up to the NHL level and make too much of an impact. That's not to discount everybody, but really cool to see organization-wide. You know, the Mavericks didn't make the playoffs last year. They didn't make a deep run. They had a historic season this year in the ECHL. The Firebirds last year, as RJ mentioned, make it just minutes away from winning the Calder Cup. They had a great season this year after a slow start. Not so much for the Kraken, but nice to see that the future is bright. Always nice to have RJ on. So RJ, appreciative of you. And this is just really an encouragement to check out the Circling Seattle Sports Futures page. That's CSS_futures on all this. Well, CSS Futures on Twitter and Instagram, on Blue Sky, Threads, and Facebook. All of the posts go out onto our one feed at Circling Seattle Sports. But just again, more encouragement for you to follow our page, Circling Seattle Sports, on everything, and then CSS Futures on Twitter and Instagram. So with that, the Kraken season is over. It's unfortunate, I know. But, on Saturday, what day was Saturday? The 19th, right? No, it was the 20th. On the 20th, and then on the 22nd, actually, which is today, we heard from, on the 20th, we heard from players and Dave Haxall at exit interviews. We didn't hear from every player, just which players the media requested. And then we heard from Ron Francis on the 22nd here, which is Monday. So we will go into it here. I apologize to shake you a little bit, but we'll go into just some of the notable quotes throughout the exit interviews, just because, you might not follow us or you want kind of a surmise of that. Justin Schultz led off. His main quote was, "I love it here, but there's still a lot to be played out. We'll see what happens over the summer." Schultz is an unrestricted free agent. And just given Riker Evans, having a similar offensive-minded skill set as a defenseman, I don't know if it's likely that Schultz will come back unless he really wants to be kind of a backup here and let Evans blossom. But we'll see how that all plays out. So Jordan Eberle talked about what makes playing in Seattle so fun. He says, "I think about how much fun it is to play in the playoffs in that building," referencing Climate Pledge Arena. "These fans and the passion that they bring, not just in hockey, but baseball and football, I've really enjoyed that." Continuing over here, Jaden Schwartz talked about Shane Wright. He said he looked fast, more comfortable, even face-offs and little things he was doing well, having fun. You could tell he was ready and wanted to take advantage of that opportunity. Happy for him and how hard he's worked. So there's that. For Jared McCann confirmed he is going to Worlds with Team Canada to try and win gold after he dealt with some injury trouble towards the end of the season. McCann did say he does feel healthy going into the off season. McCann also talked about how he played center throughout the course of the year, played up the middle. He's traditionally a winger, but he did play center throughout the course of the season for the Kraken. He said it's difficult. The systems that we play, especially here, they ask a lot of the center, but it is something that I can do. He was unsure whether he'll play up the middle or on the wing next year, but says he should find out with the player meetings that they were having the same day as these exit interviews for us. He did talk about Matty Beniers as well. He said, obviously, he's still a very young kid, but he's matured. He's matured a lot this year, and defensively, he was great. He really was, and they asked a lot of him, and he answered. So that was McCann. Yanni Gord talked on the offensive struggles and if teams played them differently this year. He says, I don't think it's about anybody else. I think it's about us. We didn't adjust and didn't find ways to score goals. It's about us and what we had in this locker room. We knew we had much more to give this year than what we showed on the ice. So there was that. We continue forward here. Vince Dunn talked about the injury that he suffered against Calgary, where he only played 2 games after the injury that he sustained. Said it sucked to see the team going through it and not succeeding, not being able to be out there and helping them. I take a lot of accountability for that and knowing I'm a big piece of this team. When asked about the injury itself and if he could disclaim what it is, he said, I mean, you can probably look at the videos and make your own assumptions. I'm not really going to get into it too deeply, but yeah, it was just something that wasn't really an injury that I wanted to mess with, not something that you could really play through and jeopardize myself or even the team's performance. We got an update on that from Ron Francis, but we'll continue forward. When asked about the coaching situation in Dave Haxtell, Vince Dunn said, I think there's only so much a coach can say. If you want to point fingers around the room, it's easy to do so with a coach, but ultimately it comes down to the guys in the room. We are the ones out there that need to do what it takes to win. Vince had a lot to say, so we're gonna get through it. I think being a little more assertive, more tenacious, I think scoring goals that aren't so pretty is something we really need to look at. Talking about the offensive struggles. Dunn talked about playing in Seattle. If you've ever been to another sporting event, it's the same as ours. An atmosphere that's not really like many other stadiums. When people come to watch our games, you can see how much they really do love watching us. Dunn talked about the Kraken organization as well. I'm very thankful that I've been part of this organization since the start and seeing what we've built, even the improvements they make day to day to make it even better. Players should be excited to want to come here. I was curious about what, you talk about defensemen. There's the more stay-at-home defensive defensemen and the offensive-minded defensemen, guys who quarterback the power play, guys who jump into the play. Dunn and Riker Evans are that. They're similar. Obviously, one's more accomplished, but, so I was curious about it. I was like, what did you like from his play and about his presence in the room? There was more of an answer before this, but this part really made the media corps in attendance laugh. Vince said he's an interesting cat in the locker room. We're still trying to figure him out, so we got to get a few more moments away from the rink to try and see what more I can get out of him. He seems pretty introverted. I'm going to do this because he did this when he was entering. He's super organized. He's very respectful, very good kid, works hard. That was funny. He said some more on Evans. Everyone loves playing with him, being around him, and I think just being a good person, being a hard worker is everything you can ask for a young guy. Oliver Bjorkstrand talked. He said, I think if you look at our lineup, we had a team, at least us as a group, we expected to make the playoffs, and we felt like we should have been able to. I don't think we're far off, but I think for us, it's all mental. Oopsie. Continuing here, what else do we got? And then we get to Dave Haxtell. There was a bunch of stuff that Dave said. He talked for 34 minutes, in fact, so I don't have anything to share with you because we didn't want to tweet all that. But he did talk about the potential of naming a captain. He said that's a discussion that I think is a valid discussion to have this summer. Some people tweeted about it like it was a certainty, but Haxtell didn't say as much. Joey Decor talked about winning the Fan Favorite Award, saying, I take it very seriously, the honor of representing Seattle. It means a lot to me that I have their support and we have their support. getting the fan favorite award was a very special moment for me, for sure. I believe that's all we've got from exit interviews. Joey DeCord said regarding his goal attempt at the end of the year against Minnesota, he'll see if we can take a few more shots next year, and I'll get one eventually. Dave Hawks also talked about Will Borgen. He said, when I look at the growth of Will Borgen this year, that's something that doesn't draw a lot of attention. He's tremendous in his role and in his comfortability in his role. It points to some really positive things to come in the future. I believe Matty Beniers is the last person we heard from. Yes, so we have a few things from Matty. Talked about what he'll work on offensively. I think it's more going in the right areas. I'm going to work on my shot regardless, but I think it's more being in the right area, not crowding my teammates, being in really good areas to get pucks to get more chances. Being in really good areas to get pucks to get more chances. There you go. I talked to Jordan Eberle and his value to the team, saying, I love playing with him. He's just a great guy to be around, great leader to have in that room, especially for young guys, and he's done it all. Now we just got to get him a cup. Beniers also ended on talking about being a restricted free agent this offseason. He said, I love it here in Seattle. I think we'll see. I think we'll get something done. Then we will go over here to today, where we heard from Ron Francis about a number of things, if we can get to it. I apologize. We're trying to get it all in one place. We're doing what we can. Me. Here we go. Was asked about the coaching staff, if Dave Haxtell will be back. He said, as part of the process that we go through now, getting into the off season, we're still in that process. You're going to read into it one way or the other. So he didn't really seem to confirm anything. And I won't speculate too much on here. Was asked on Matty Beniers' play this season. He said, I have no concerns about Matty's game long term. He's going to be an important part of this franchise for a long time. That from general manager Ron Francis. Was talked about how the team can improve scoring, mentioning potentially trading some of the prospects. He said, there's some prospects that we don't want to give up and some that we may have to. Talking on whether Jared McCann will play up the middle at the center position or on the wing. We, in an ideal world, we can put him back on the wing and get someone in the middle, but putting him in the center position is a fallback option. So it really sounded like they want to keep him on the wing and get a center to play up the middle consistently and not having to put McCann in there. Francis talked about wanting to improve after the team got eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs against Dallas last year. He said, we tried to kick the tire on some big things and looked at some small things as well. So they really weren't super complacent on just bringing the same group back and being fine with that. It sounded like they really thought about bringing some big groups in. When talking about the goaltender tandem, he said, we feel comfortable with those two guys in our net moving forward with Philip Grubauer and Joey DeCord. Makes sense considering Grubauer's contract. The Cord signed for one more season and both played well throughout the course of the year, so there's really no reason to look at the goalie position. I talked about the team's upcoming free agents, both unrestricted and restricted. We'll get conversations going really soon with Matty and Tolfi. I talked a little bit about a few of the guys in specifics outside of those two, but he said we had conversations in the exit meetings on where we are now, but obviously that can change. Francis did talk about the potential of naming a captain, just like Haxtell did. He said, I would be involved in that. We've talked about that as the season went on to name a captain next year instead of rolling with the 4 alternate captains. He also confirmed that there are 7 Kraken players headed to the World Championships. Jared McCann, Brandon Tanev, and Jamie Alexiak are all going to Team Canada. Andrei Burakovsky is going to Team Sweden. Philip Grubauer is going to Team Germany. Tomáš Tatar is going to Team Slovakia, and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare is heading to Team France. He said that 6 to 7 other guys had the opportunity to go to World Championships, but said no. And there's one player being considered for the next 2 years, but he didn't want to say who that was. I don't know what that means, but that was that. So that will wrap up our Kraken segment of the show. We're going to have some more stuff with the Kraken in the off season. By the time we know it, we'll have Dev Camp. There's the draft to get to. There's free agency. There's all sorts of stuff. The Stanley Cup playoffs are happening. They've been happening over the last few days and into the day. So there's that. There's plenty of hockey to watch. It's just not Kraken hockey, unless you want to watch the Firebirds, of course, like RJ said. We get into our rain segment of the show here. And like I said, with the soccer teams, it's tough right now. There's not a lot of winning going on. The Reign, with this loss most recently, it pushed them to a 4-game losing streak. That's the first 4-game losing streak since the 2013 season, the inaugural season for the franchise, where they had that 4-game losing streak to end the season and a 9-game losing streak during the season itself. So we'll get into this game. April 21st versus the Chicago Red Stars, a 1-2 loss. Our player of the match, midfielder Jess Fishlock, an 8.0 match rating, 1 assist, 80% passing, 2 chances created, 1 shot off target, and 9 passes into the final third. That assist ties her with former Reign FC forward Megan Rapinoe for the most assists in club history at 26, and that number 26 is also tied for the 5th most assists in NWSL history. We'll look at this photo of the match here by Liz Walter because it shows the assist here. Fishlock assisted her spouse, Ziara King, on an excellent goal in the 79th minute to cut the Chicago lead in half at 1-2, but the Reign were able to get an equalizer. And we were all left feeling like this photo of the match here by Liv Lyons. We're all feeling like a lot of cook here as Chicago was happy and they collected all the points here. This was a tough match because everything I talked about with the Sounders, right, about it being your own mistakes that hurt you, it's been the same case with the Reign, but the Reign seem more equipped to deal with those mistakes and deal with this accountability to move forward and improve upon this stuff. The Red Stars scored 4 minutes in. It was like, oh, shoot. Both of Chicago's goals came in the first half. The Reign played a much better second half. If they play the way they did in the second half throughout the course of the first half, they get the win here. They snap the losing streak. But, the 2 OGs still on the team, Jess Fishlock and Lou Barnes, were very blunt and to the point. It's on them. This is on them to figure out. This is on the team to figure out, look at themselves in the mirror and, hold themselves accountable for this. It's not about necessarily anything that they did, while acknowledging that Mal Swanson is incredible for Chicago and all world. It's on them to address this. And, they were without a few key players. The injury report was small, but Jordan Heidema continues to be out, and Claudia Dickey was out with a knee injury. This is why Laurel Ivory got the start. Even Laurel Ivory, it felt like a testament to your goalkeeper depth because Ivory looked great. I wouldn't blame either of the goals against Ivory, really. It's more of the mistakes that the Reign made. So it's frustrating right now, but it's still early into the season, early into the table. I'm not super worried about it as I am with the Sounders. And I feel like the Reign are more capable of getting out of their current mess than the Sounders are. So it's frustrating for sure, when you're mostly healthy. You're not able to finish as well as you'd like to. You're able to generate some chances. You were playing Alyssa Nair in this one. Alyssa Nair is all world, as we know. Her starring for the U.S. Women's National Team. The Ziara King goal was great. It is nominated for Goal of the Week on the NWSL. So go to the NWSL Twitter and vote for Ziara King for Goal of the Week, please. It was a great goal, though. It was an absolute strike from 5 to 10 feet out of the box. It's just, I'm having trouble, again, really getting into so much of a panic like I am, or just kind of a despair mode like I am with the Sounders as I am with getting into that sort of same mode with the Reign. I'm not there. I'm just not that worried. So, it's tough. You'd like to see a little bit more, obviously, in the finishing. Laura Harvey did talk about it in the post-match press conference. You'd like to be more clinical in your finishing. And I mean, when you only score one and it comes off of a banger of a goal, you don't want to have to rely on something like that. You need to be better. And, to that point, I'm not going to go out and blame this on her. Emery Damas had some great attempts, and we'll talk about Emery Damas. Damas looked pretty great, pretty strong as an attacker. She got her first NWSL start in this match, started up at the forward position. She looked great. I mean, she had some great chances. Her next step, though, is she's still a raw, young, talented player, is getting into that final position to finish, to put away your chances, and to really elevate yourself as a great player, as a consistent, everyday player, someone who you can't deny to put in the lineup, right? It was a really good attempt. She had a few decent attempts. And again, when you're playing Alyssa Nair, it's not going to be easy at all to get one past her, let alone being, as raw as she is. There was one really good attempt, and we'll throw it to this highlight from the NWSL. I'll write to the NWSL Plus. Please don't sue me. To that right here.
Man to man.
From Barnes. There's a shot. Adam saved on the line. Milazzo for the second game in a row.
She's feeling pretty good about that save of the week.
I mean, you see it. Like, great corner from Lou Barnes. Finds Emery Adamas right there. Nice little attempt there. And there maybe a little bit better struck, a little bit more. I mean, you got someone there marking it with the goal line clearance. It's tough. But you're really encouraged. We've heard so much great stuff about Emery Adamas from the preseason throughout the course of the year. Our friend Bella Munson did a great player piece on her, and calling her baby Rapinoe. So it's been really exciting. And with her talent, it should be only a matter of time before she's really a consistent player that, again, as I mentioned, you cannot deny to put in the starting lineup. We'll get, we talked so much about the Ziara King goal and talked about it being goal of the week. I think to shut up and show it to you. So here's that. All rights to the NWSL. Please don't sue me.
Week, and we saw a lot of teams score a bunch of goals. So I think they're going to drop even further down in the goal scoring department, rankings wise.
Yeah. Kansas City's got 17 in 5 games now?
It's unreal. I mean, you can't measure yourself to them. King shoots! It's in! Ziara King! How about that? Right on cue.
"77 minutes have looked poor. They have not been themselves. And here, King goes inside. She lets Fishlock take the space out.
1, don't want to be sued. 2, just pretty incredible. Sorry. Oh, okay. You can see why I was going for that when that video ended. Neck cracks. I got a lidocaine patch on my back. Leave me alone. Yeah, just a ridiculous strike by Ziara King, and just really glad for her to come in and contribute that. Just unfortunate that the Reign weren't able to get an equalizer following that. So we'll go into the team-related news part of the Reign segment. 20th, the team signed goalkeeper Kaylee Collins as a short-term replacement player. Collins will be available pending receipt of her international transfer certificate. She joins the Reign from Western Sydney Wanderers Football Club in the A-League of Australia, where she had played on loan from the Orlando Pride, where this photo was from, photo credit Orlando Pride. With the Wanderers, the 25-year-old made 11 appearances, playing all 990 minutes. She made 48 saves and recorded 3 clean sheets. Prior to playing in the A-League, Collins was selected 34th overall by the Orlando Pride in the 2021 NWSL Draft. During the 2021 season, she joined the Pride on several occasions as a national team replacement player and made her professional debut in Orlando's 2022 NWSL Challenge Cup final. In 2023, the goalkeeper made 2 appearances for the Pride, 1 in the UKG NWSL Challenge Cup and 1 during the regular season. In college, Collins played at the University of Southern California, USC, where she was named the 2018 Pac-12 Goalkeeper of the Year. In addition to earning many honors across her career, including the United Soccer Coaches All-America honors, Top Drawer Soccer Best 11 honors, an appearance on the All-Region First, 2 All Pac-12 honors, and an All-American selection. The California native made 66 career appearances for the Trojans, recording 210 saves, 27 clean sheets, and a .791 goals against average. Again, not a lot I can say further than what I already did about the Reign. I do have some faith in them to be able to get out of this hole that they're in and move forward, but it's going to take some reflection within to be able to correct things. And it's not going to be easy, as their next matchup this upcoming week is against the team that's currently sitting at 4th in the NWSL table. So the Reign sit at a 1-win, 4-loss, no-draw record. They're 13th in the NWSL table right now with just 3 standings points. Their next matchup is April 27th at the North Carolina Courage. That is a 4 o'clock Pacific time kickoff. You can watch it on NWSL Plus, which is free. You just got to sign up for it. It's all right. It's not bad. Again, the it being free part is a pretty big aspect for me because I'm poor. But also, if you have Kong, you can segment of the show. If you are unfamiliar, the Seawolves are our professional rugby team calling Starfire Sports Complex home. They won 2 of their league titles. They play in the Major League Rugby League. It's usmlr.com is their official website. MLR is the acronym of Major League Rugby. The first few years of the existence of MLR, the Seawolves won back-to-back titles in 2018 and 2019. 2020, there was a shortened season. 2021 didn't go so well. 2022 saw the Seawolves go all the way to the championship, losing to New York. 2023, the Seawolves had another strong season, but they lost in the playoffs in that one. And so far, with their most recent win over the New England Free Jacks, who are the top team in the Eastern Conference of the MLR, the Seawolves have a league best 33 standing points and a 7-1 record. The Seawolves won on April 20th at the New England Free Jacks by a score of 29-21. This is another installment of the Coffee Cup. So the Seawolves cemented their seat at the top of the U.S. MLR standings with that 7-win, 1-loss record and 33 points in the championship over at Veterans Memorial Stadium in Quincy. The Seawolves were able to open up the scoring with a penalty kick, gaining the 3 points from the boot of the league's top scorer in Mac Mason. But New England was able to answer in the 30th minute, scoring the first try of the match with those 7 points, so putting it at a 7-3. Seattle was able to get the lead back, adding points for 3 successful penalty kicks and a try thanks to Dan Creel as he dragged 3 opponents across the try line, despite the Seals also losing a player for 10 minutes to the sin bin with a yellow card offense. So they went into the halftime break leading by a score of 14-7. Cara Pryor earned his first Seawolves cap at the match and celebrated with the first try of the second half at the 52nd minute mark, which was quickly added to by team captain Rico Tadding, who also crossed the white line to add the third try of the day for the Seawolves, which came at the 55th minute. League's top scorer, Mac Mason, continued to add to that tally with another successful penalty kick as the Seawolves score was put to their final number of 29, but the Free Jacks did fight back and make this interesting. They earned a penalty try, which was an automatic 7 points, and matched the Seawolves with a third converted try to bring their score up to 21. The Seawolves playing against, they were down formidable player Joe Tafate, who also was handed a yellow card and 10 minutes into the sin bin at the 68th minute mark. It wasn't long enough for the Free Jacks to be able to battle their way all the way back. The score remained all the same, and the final whistle blew in the 81st minute. We've got some notes from this win here. Mac Mason received the league's player of the match accolade, and Rhino Herbst earned his 50th MLR cap with this win on the road. This particular win against the Free Jacks tastes even sweeter as the team returned home with the Coffee Cup title and trophy to add to their mantelpiece, which is earned when the Seawolves and the Free Jacks play. Both teams now have 2 titles each to their name. The Seawolves remain undefeated on the road and can now take a well-deserved break as they now have a bye week on the calendar ahead of their next match. So, they continue to be a great performing team. As I mentioned, catching you up with our Seawolves related news, 7-1 record, pretty important. Top of the MLR right now, having won the league championships in 2018-2019 back-to-back MLR champions, the 2022 Western Conference champions. They were winners of the semifinal back in 2023, and they're currently the best team in the league. So rugby in Seattle, pretty hot. As I mentioned, they've got the bye week right now, which is great. Get some rest, get you some time to recover the body a bit. Rugby is a very demanding sport. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of physicality. and be able to look up to their next opponent. So while their upcoming match isn't until a few weeks, 2 weeks from now, we'll look to that one. Their next match is a home match. It's May 3rd versus Anthem RC with a 7:30 p.m. So that will wrap us up for probably one of the longest episodes ever of Circling Seattle Sports on Converge. I want to again apologize for the echo, the lighting, the camera not being 4K quality, just, again, circumstances that I didn't want to miss studio time this week. It was out of my control. Couldn't deal with it. So until we see you next week, hopefully in studio, take care of yourselves, be well, and do whatever you can to make the day a great day. Love you, and I'll see you soon.